Hey Aquarius, here is your weekly horoscope for January 31 to February 7th. Well, there's a lot of things going on in the sky this week that are not so pleasant involving your sun sign. First of all, we have Mercury in Aquarius going retrograde. We'll come back to that. We also have the Sun in Aquarius squaring Mars in Taurus all week. What that may mean for you is Mars and Taurus is in your solar chart dealing with home and family, and squaring yourself, the Sun in Aquarius, not a great aspect. There's problems perhaps at home and in the family with this type of an aspect. Now, it could be that many of you may be involved with some renovation. This aspect could lend itself, Mars and Taurus in the fourth, to making some taking on rental projects in the home. But Mars in the fourth house tends to indicate frustration and conflict and fighting with people that you live with. So do be aware of that this week, especially if you live with a Taurus, because Mars is in Taurus. But the Sun squaring Mars in Taurus does tend to indicate that you yourself won't keep your cool as easily as you do. We love the fact that you are very detached and cool and collected most times. You don't get upset when a lot of other people do. But this aspect is very frustrating, and even cool as a cucumber Aquarius may find themselves getting hot under the collar this week over somebody or something, and maybe more than once. I say that because we also have Jupiter squaring Lilith all week and Mars conjunct Lilith till Thursday. Lilith is a point in the sky. It's not a planet. It's a major point, though, in the horoscope that does tend to symbolize our deepest and most negative emotions and feelings and fears and anger and all that horrible stuff that we never like to admit, that some of us have these emotional outbursts and qualities at times. Mars and Jupiter aspecting Lilith just opens the door to emotional frustrations and troubles and upsets. I know in talking to friends and family, we're all getting pandemic weary. And if you live with anyone, even just the way they sip their tea or coffee is enough to get on your nerves these days. So be aware of that and give people the benefit of the doubt. If you're ready to lose your cool, you might want to remember that things are just out of sorts this week and try to hang on to your patience if you can. Now, what you can do with this aspect is there's a lot of frustration and a lot of repressed energy and stuff like that floating around a lot of people this week. But Aquarius tends to be very much involved in their head and not so much as involved in their heart and their body at times. So it would be a good idea for you to look at some mind, body, spirit practices this week to help relieve stress and frustration. Things like meditation, yoga, anything at all. Some people get involved with drumming or chanting or dancing or anything at all, especially if it's creative and rhythmic, would be something that would help at least appease some of the frustrations going on this week. Chiron is sextiling Saturn all month and sextile Venus from Thursday on. So there are some soft spots there for Aquarius to fall back on, and all of us to fall back on. In particular, with sextiling Venus, if you are the artistic or creative type of Aquarius, I would definitely pull out whatever your art materials are this week and perhaps work on them, because that's a great stress reliever for a lot of people, especially Aquarius. You can lose yourself in your art and therefore get your mind off of things that might be worrying or upsetting you. Now, the big thing we've got going on is Saturn, your former ruling planet, squaring Uranus, your present ruling planet. Some astrologers think they both still rule, but I believe Uranus is the true ruler of Aquarius. And they are in conflict with one another until April. So I will mention them in probably from time to time in the weekly forecasts ahead. But for this week, it is a pretty tight square between Saturn and Uranus. And what we have there is we have the themes of the old, tried and true last century stuff in conflict with the new century, the 21st century, and the new ways that we all have to, the new conditions of living we all have to deal with. Saturn-Uranus can also be politically oriented. And when you look at the politics of old style politics versus new style, well, yeah, there is a lot of conflict that is potential in this aspect. I think as humanity matures and grows as a civilization, we see that in some ways there's still a lot of darkness to human behavior, but hopefully as we look to and embrace the future, we might hopefully become more kind to one another and more accepting of people's differences. And I think this is a lot of what Saturn and Uranus squaring is about. We see in the USA a historic female and mixed race vice president. I think that that kind of social change will be seen all over the world. It is not just a white man's world. The world belongs to everybody, and Aquarius will make sure of that. So, unfortunately, these changes in society can be frustrating and even induce a lot of kind of unusual behavior in a lot of people. So be aware of that, especially with all these squares this week. Hopefully Mercury retrograde leaves you alone, Aquarius, and things aren't full of mishaps and miscommunications as I suggested. Have a great week ahead.